Okay, next up, I still believe, and I want to see if you agree with me or not, that there still is confusion about the security responsibilities in the cloud for the company that has information in the cloud versus the cloud platform provider, whether that's Amazon or Microsoft or Google. Is it number one? Is it your sense that there is still confusion? And number two, how would you delineate or define those responsibilities? So for the client's responsibility versus the platform provider's responsibility.
Yeah, there is confusion because it's hard to draw a line of demarcation between cloud vendor and cloud customer and who's responsible for what. Now, and networking is the perfect example here where we both have responsibilities. So for example, I might need to set up a virtual private cloud. I'm going to need to set up my own firewall rules for how I want traffic to move across my own subnets. That's my responsibility. It's the cloud vendor's responsibility to make sure like the firewall rules that I implement, they're actually enforced. There are other areas where it becomes a grayer area. Let's say I have a microservices architecture. I'm exposing a lot of my services as APIs. Well, the cloud vendor is going to be responsible for, securing access to the network, enforcing the firewall rules. But when it comes to maybe web application firewalls, well, the cloud vendor doesn't know what my web application is supposed to do. It's my responsibility to configure, say, a web application firewall. Well, that's fairly complex. And so this is where you start getting into like, oh, do I need a security partner to help me implement, especially in this kind of gray area where it's not very clear, because configuring a web application firewall is not trivial. And it's a domain of expertise that many of us who, if you work in healthcare or finance or industry, manufacturing, that's not your bailiwick. And so it helps to have somebody that can help you. You don't want to learn the hard way how to configure a web application firewall. And that's where I think there's still a little bit of a gap sometimes. And so it helps to have somebody that's been down that road and can bring best practices to this, what is essentially a new domain, a new security domain for a lot of people.
And again, it's important, I think, to emphasize here that your data in the cloud is your responsibility. It is to make sure it's secure. And assuming that the cloud provider is going to secure everything that's there is just wrong thinking and will get you in a load of trouble.
Oh gosh, yes.
Ultimately, you need to know what your responsibilities are and that that you have to do some work here too. So thank you so much for that. Now let's move into something else you referenced toward the end of that answer, and that is about a security partner in whatever form that partner would take. Now, a lot of companies, as they're starting to think about bringing on a security partner for their cloud endeavors, Dan, are not sure what exactly they should be looking for in that security partner. So if you're talking to a company like this, what do you tell them as some of the most important things they want to look for in that cloud security partner?
Okay, well, you want somebody that's familiar with cloud infrastructure and how virtual machines and containers and Kubernetes clusters work. What are the different security controls that we have across these different layers in our infrastructure stack, and just how we organize resources in clouds, how we set up virtual private clouds. So we want to make sure we have a partner that understands those concepts. We want to make sure we have a partner who understands automation. Infrastructure as code is really popular now. So whereas we used to buy physical servers and put them in a rack, now we spin them up and we use code to do that. So we want to make sure we have security partners who can help us construct code, infrastructure as code that's going to work, is secure. We also want security partners who understand the risks, the particular risks that are especially prevalent in the cloud. Like I mentioned earlier about identity is like the new target, where it used to be trying to break through a perimeter that you might have in your on-premise data center. Now, so much access is available to an attacker who can compromise an identity, say log into my account, this person will have all the privileges and access that I have. So we need to understand tools like two-factor authentication, which you may not have used when you're, say, in an on-prem environment, but is absolutely essential. So do you have a security partner who can think all the way from, say, two-factor authentication, protecting identities, all the way through to understanding low-level networking details and how those networking details are implemented in cloud and what the cloud infrastructure looks like. It's really a spectrum. And as you pointed out, we as the cloud consumers, cloud customers, have absolute responsibility for protecting our data, but there's a lot of technical implementation details and tools that we need that may not necessarily be in place in any one particular cloud vendor. And this is especially the case if you might be working with a couple of cloud vendors. You want to make sure you have a partner that understands the specifics of multiple clouds.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Dan, we've talked about a lot in a little bit of time, and I think that you've given us all so much to think about through this that is going to be a great launching pad for the rest of the event today. So I want to thank you so much for your time and insights.
Well, thanks, Keith. I really enjoyed talking with you. This is a great topic.